Hello and welcome to
All
Reuzel
right.
Live. Today is October 30th, All Hallows Eve. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nicholas Giberson with Reuzel Education. Today we have a very special presentation all the way from Tucson, Arizona. We've got Scumbassador Joel Tenser. Joel, take it away.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining me today. As he said, my name is Joel Tenser, and I'm going to be taking you through one of my favorite cuts. We have my good friend Ryan here, who has been, 2 months or so since we last cut?
Yeah, it's been about 2 months.
About 2 months. All right. So we usually do a boogie on Ryan. So he's got this natural parting here.
Hey, Joel, before you get started, can we lift that camera up a little bit? You're looking a little bit like a headless hairman. We just need to be able to see your head. There it is. All right.
I mean, that's in theme for Halloween. So yeah, Ryan has a very strong natural parting, which lends itself well to an asymmetrical shape. And he's got a heck of a lot of hair here. So taking it short, doing mid-skin fade on this guy, and keeping that asymmetrical cut for you, okay? So in the water bottle, we always start the conversation. There is the blue tonic, which allows us to get through whatever product is already in the hair, helps us break it down, and it starts the conversation about product. It has a classic barbershop scent to it, and immediately I can comb through everything. Also makes a great cutting lotion, allows for a little extra slip. So once we have an even moisture here, I like to find his parietal ridge. And Ryan's hair has a lot of natural shape and flow to it. So it's real easy to find that for me. But how we like to do that at the old school or in the academy at Denver, it's the corner of the 290 degrees. Invert that, and you have your parietal ridge. Now, the easier way to do that is find the recession point, and we follow that bone ridge. Now I try and catch that with my thumb so that we can do this in one pass. I'm going to clean up a few imperfections. And we dip a little bit into the crown. Here, I'm going to tell you just a little bit and bring you up to my height. So if you can see what I'm looking at, this is perfectly one line. It's just around a rounded shape, okay? And, pardon me, sir. We like to use contrasting colored combs to the hair so we can really see what we're looking at. And I'm going to lift his hair to a 90 degree. And I'm starting square to the flattest part of the head, right over the ear, right up to that parietal ridge. And the tops of the tips of the teeth of the comb are at a square 90 degree. Also for my spacing, trying to get an even shape here, I'm putting 1 finger width between the comb and the scalp. That way, everything's pre-measured and I know exactly where I'm going. And I'm working in just that 1.5 inches. As I work forward, I work to the hairline. And then we start to work back. And I take a 1/2 step and work to the next inch. So setting in this baseline is going to help us determine both where exactly we're going to fade from and how much length to keep in the top. Until just a pinch here, my friend. And continuing around the shape. So usually in our videos, you see them step side to side. I know Rob and Lane definitely do that on stage. I definitely come from a cosmetologist background as opposed to a barber. And so I've been trained to work the chair. Also keeps my lighting source in one space. It's just a preference thing, but helps me stay consistent. And same idea, we're pivoting around the crown. So we have our baseline set in, and I'm going to start working down. So I know that the spine of the comb sits at about a 1.5. So I'm going to anchor that at about the mid-fade area. And again, the tops of the tips of the teeth of the comb are facing up. And working in that same pattern all the way around the shape of the head. Now this is just a rough draft, so you can clean up perfections as you work through it. So right here, I'm anchoring by the occipital bone. And there's a little shadow right there. All right, so as we work down, I'm going to create a skin line to just below the C shape, the ridge right here. And we anchor it right into the mandible processor. Find that occipital bone. And so we have a skin line. So from here, I open my blade and I start just above, and with freehand tapering with the open blade. Nice and crispy. All right. So by working with the open blade, we're leaving ourselves a little bit of extra material, and that'll allow us to buff out that line in just a few moments. It also allows me to personalize, because Ryan's got some strong growth patterns. And I'm placing the blade flat, and as I'm following the head shape up, I start to lose contact and I fan out. So working in that same pattern, I go to a middle open blade, and we're working up that same pattern, and we're listening, because our eyes can sometimes deceive us on this, because we're looking for density as well as how long the hair is. Continuing in the same fashion, we keep the blade closed, and we're just kind of fanning right at that perimeter. And use your judgment. Work the arm of the blade as you so feel, but try and keep that taper low. For me, setting in that skin line kind of compresses the area, allows me to focus in on that blend, that fade. All right, I'm going to switch tools here. And while I do so, I always like to clean my tools off. All right, so I'm switching to my trimmers, which get a little bit closer than my fade blade. And I'm coming underneath that skin line and flicking out. So guys, thank you for joining us from wherever you are today. Again, my name is Joel Tenser. I am a Scumbassador out of Tucson, Arizona. And we are doing the boogie haircut on my good friend Ryan here. And I'm just cutting in a little bit of shape so we can see what's going on. And use your fade brushes. Make sure everything's laying fresh, sitting the way you want it, no extra debris. And so you can see where we started here. He's got a lot of bulk, but that's sitting nice and fresh. So while I'm still working on the side, I'm going to pull out the foil shaver. Now, I am a cosmetologist by trade, so this was not in my repertoire when I started beauty school. So it did have a little bit of a learner's curve for me. So if you notice, I'm starting in a downward pull, which helps keep a softened line. And then I start working in more of a circular fashion to help buff all that out. And that blend becomes really nice and soft. I can still see where I had started the skin line. So this helps make everything a lot more gentle and a lot softer. Still working in that lawnmower fashion. That little bit of overlap helps us keep sight of what we're doing. So once I've completed the first side to satisfaction, I like to try and check myself in the mirror. And yeah, that's looking pretty crispy. All right. So as I move to the other side, now this is the side that is going to be asymmetric. And again, he's got a really nice and strong part line that kind of follows the occipital or the parietal ridge right here. But to make sure that we have everything clean and precise, I'm going to comb everything back again. We're going to find that recession point and follow that bone ridge right around. And I catch as much of it as I can with my thumb. And using the teeth of my comb, we're pushing it all out of the way. If anything's a little more stubborn, I'm using the finer teeth as well. And again, dropping down to the occipital bone, where all of his whorls live. All right. So even moisture is going to help you keep even tension as we work through the shape. So on the other side, we had one finger in between the comb and the scalp. So square over the ear, I'm going to do just the same thing. And I'm cutting just that 2.5 inches. Now, I'm going to anchor the comb right into that recession point and create that asymmetric shape. All right, just checking myself in the mirror here. As I work back, I put that finger underneath the comb again, make sure that we're square and about 90 degrees with the parting. And again, working around that shape, trying to comb everything up. So using that 1.5 to 2 inches is just the same as we would keeping it within the first 2 knuckles. It's about 1.5 to 2 inches, and that allows us to keep an even tension so that as we're working through the shape, everything bounces the same amount. So again, finding that same midpoint, arching the teeth out, and just over the ear, 1.5 inches. Now again, as I work to the front here, I am turning him slightly, taking that partial step, whichever is easier for you, and then angling it again. And checking myself just for good measure. I know I'm a perfectionist, but again, this is our rough draft, guys. So we can refine more as we're using the scissors or after we've dried everything. And working down in that same pattern. I believe it was George who told us to work like you're mowing a lawn. Work in small areas in a patterned way so that everything is consistent. tilt slightly, just so I can see right here and here. All right. And sometimes I need to remember to work the chair. We have the hydraulic pump here, and I got to work with myself. Bad posture is going to take me down one day, guys. And if we can teach you not to do the same, that is the mission. All right, so since we are working with the asymmetrical shape, this time just above, just above that transition point, I'm going to take him just to a high fade area and work it down to just below his occipital bone again. So working with the blade closed, starting in with that skin or that zero line in that downward fashion. And remember, working in a clean area both makes your client feel good about your work and allows you to see what you're doing. So, open blade, right on that skin line, and slowly working up to that transition. And when possible, I do try and keep 2 points of contact. I can keep a little bit of tension on the skin, make sure that everything is fairly even the way it's feeding into the clipper, as well as if there's any sneezing or motion that happens between either one of us, there's a little bit of extra bounce back. And slowly working around that shape. And use your mirrors, check yourself as you're working. That's pretty good so far. I believe it was Pirate Paul who recommended that we always check ourselves as we're working and to complement our work. Make sure that we're feeling good about it. To all of you guys out there, yes, I've been a Reuzel fanboy for many years before I started working with them. Been using Reuzel products for about 8 years, and I've been fortunate enough to go and see Rob and Lane do their road show twice before getting to attend the academy. And let me tell you, those guys, science, they know exactly what they're doing, and they are hilarious. If you ever get the chance to go see them, take the opportunity. Now, we also have our academy in both Denver and Holland. Now, the Denver Academy is awesome. That's where I received my training along with the new crew of Scumbassadors. And I know that we have courses coming out every month or so. So as I'm working through this, the lighter side, I've been fanning the blade a little bit, working to both where the shadow is and what I can hear. And every time I shift the blade, I'm working in a shorter, smaller area. All right, so clean the blades, switch the tools, and again, we're working on the slider side, square over the ear. Now their ear is cartilage, it's attached. It's not going to break if you bend it out of the way. Don't be afraid to pull the ear out of the way, get where you need to go. And I'm working just below the line and start my flicking right there. And again, spin the client so you can see the silhouette here. Make sure that everything's sitting the way you like. And as I'm doing so, I'm seeing just a little shadow right in here. And that being the case, that's just in between the shape of the 1 and 1.5. So I'm using a slightly tighter comb just to get a little bit of that corner and refine it just a little bit. All right. When possible, remind yourself to keep a clean area. And pulling out the foil clipper again in that downward fashion. And so I may have said this earlier, but this was not a tool in my kit when I started beauty school. So I watched a number of videos. I watched all of my favorite pros and learned little tricks by watching them. So if it helps anyone out there, start with the grain in a downward fashion. Creates a softer line, then you can buff it out with a more vertical or circular pattern. Now that we've moved hair down to skin, we've exposed the follicle, and I'm going to pull out the astringent foam. And when possible, vertical, either which way, so that it has the maximum foaming. Otherwise, it will come out a little bit more watery. Now, this is a witch hazel product, which helps close up the pores. Keeps them nice and clean, and it's nice and refreshing feeling. As I bring my work to the top, re-wetting down. And bringing him down to a height that we can all see here. So, to find the highest point of his head, we can balance the comb, see where it loses contact. I'll tilt you just a little bit. Right about here, which is square to the ears. So I find that same point, down to the ear, and get the length up and out of my way. So I believe, may have been George. Either way, I've heard a few of my Scumbassador friends talk about this. We are professional combing experts. The comb is going to guide us on everything that we need to cut. Any tool, anybody can use clippers or scissors and cut hair. The act of removing hair is fairly simple, but to do it with precision, to do it with purpose, is what makes us artists. So from that high point again, right down to the occipital bone, following straight back. So we have our two crown sections. So since we are going for an asymmetric look, I try and find where exactly that parting is. And I go just a little bit above it so that there is a little bit of a blend. Bring that down, keep that forward and out of my way. And from that recession point to the crown in one more section. So there should be five subsections that we're going to handle the top in. 2 crown, 2 corners, and then the front. And this is where I switch to my scissor work, which as a cosmetologist is where I feel more comfortable, truly. All right, so I'm using the tail of the comb here, following that same parting in a horizontal, diagonal, horizontal to the previous parting, parallel to the previous parting. Either way, the length of that section is up and out of my way. And bringing you back up. And so I like to use the wide teeth of my comb. It's a little bit of a looser shape, a little bit of a looser bounce to it. And then I find that previous parting underneath, square to the ear again, and I cut. And again, careful to not pass that second knuckle. And slight rotation, again with the loose comb. So using even tension here, you can see how cleanly that's going to blend. So a while back, I was a hair model for one of the Reuzel Scumbassadors, and he was doing a haircut. When he was doing so on stage, I was turned away from the crew, everyone watching, and sorry, just moving up another 1/4 of an inch here. keeping that slow rhythmic pattern. So as he had me turned away from the crowd, he was filling the space a little bit and saying, hey, don't cut past your second knuckle. When you do, you're likely to cut yourself, and that hurts. And somewhere over his shoulder, somebody said, yeah, that's why we all have knuckle tattoos. Now, I had just gotten mine a month prior, and I felt like such a trope. Well, nowadays, we have the first tattoo line monitored by a salon product. And I've used it to heal my tattoos. I've used it on my healed tattoos, and let me tell you, this stuff is wonderful. So even if I'm a barber trope, I am thrilled to be representing Reuzel here today. All right, so we've got the crown, one side worked out, and I'm going to work to the front of the hairline again. So we work our corner, keeping the length out of my way, and working horizontal to the previous parting, getting that length up and out of my way. And again, clean sections make the difference. So that previous section, and we have a nice blend. Working up the next section. And we have our guide. And we keep going until no more hair reaches. Pretty clean. So all of this is going to come over to one side. I'm going to take a point as close to that recession on the opposite and follow it along the hairline, keeping my finger there so we can keep that section neat. Moving that out of my way. And all right.
Hey, Joel, just jumping on real quick.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just want to let you know we got viewers from US, Canada, Ukraine, Portugal, Guatemala. We've got people watching from all over the world. So,
wow.
Doing a great job. Keep it up.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in today. As he said, my name is Joel Tenser. I am the Scumbassador from Tucson, Arizona. And thank you guys for joining me today. So we have our other section of the crown, and we lost one of our subsections here. All right, so find that previous guide and snip that away. So even and rhythmic patterns here make a big difference. Having the structure built into our cutting system allows us to more predictably work through the shape of a haircut. And cross-check whenever possible. And that sits fairly nice. So as we said earlier, he's got a nice, strong, natural parting here that feeds right into his whirl, where it does always want to poke just a pinch. And as we've started to move closer to the hairline, this is where I start to move into a clipper or a scissor over comb, just because my fingers are wider than the comb are. And again, we want to make sure that everything's pulled straight out from that part line. We find that guide and work in small sections here. And we have our guides. 2 guides are better than 1. And trying to use even tension so that there's a routine amount of bounce back. So, last but not least, this top is still full and long, and you need a lot of this to come off. So, we have our crown, which we've kept pretty short here. Tilt just a pinch. And we want it to be a little bit longer in front to the shortened back. So as I'm pulling everything to the center top, I see where everything wants to reach and where everything wants to bend. And like I was talking about earlier, right to the second knuckle. Guys, I am notorious for cutting myself. Little nicks, don't be like me. Try and be structured. These are bad habits that take a long time to untrain. And we found that crown. Now, because his hair is so thick, I like to bring it up and kind of point cut across. Now, because this is what we call a convex layer, notice that it does kind of lift up in that side. That's fine. We want to keep the same shape, but we want to soften it just a pinch. And I am going to go through, once we've dried it, with my blending shears and provide a little bit more movement and texture. On this side, we want to take just a little bit more of that point. All right, we got a sharp blend here. again, clean off your clients. So I'm going to use a combination today. We're using the grooming tonic. We call this the liquid gold. Somewhere between an oil, a gel, and a leave-in conditioner. Now, there are generally two application methods. I'm doing the drip method on Ryan because, again, he's got just so much hair, so much material here that it's going to spread, and there's no way I think I can overdose this guy on the product. Now, on other clients, we do have the flip the drip and apply it by hand, which allows you to get it right into the scalp. Secondly, for volume and shine, we're going to use the fiber gel, and just a pea-sized amount of this goes a long, long way. Now, almost all products I apply the same way. We warm them up by hand, and then I go into the root. Now, because I am going to be blow drying him and I want volume in the front, I'm starting into the hairline. And we're doing our Bob Ross. We have the palette, and I can reapply it to my hand as we work through it. Guys, thank you again for joining me from wherever you are. My name is Joel Tenser, and I am a Scumbassador out of Tucson, Arizona. And for our blow dry, I like to start here in the crown. So I'm going to get the length moved out of my way. Bring that down. And this is a wrap dry, so we're trying to keep it close. Essentially, we're using the head shape almost like an ironing board. The brush more keeps moving so that nothing clumps up, nothing gets too heavy. And I try and keep moving a little bit so that we create a more natural flow in the volume. Trying to influence his natural parting. We're just following that shape. And keeping the length up out of my way, following back. And here I like to rotate just a little bit, get a little bit of added volume. Now the blow dry allows everything to spread out, have a more natural bounce, so you can see the shape that we've cut. It's also going to allow us to see where the density is too much and what we need to remove. So I'm working in small areas that I'm in control over. Still everything flush to the scalp. And that brush just keeps moving a little bit, make sure nothing is clumping. Nice. All right, so as we move to the front of the hairline here, I start more of a raking motion, which allows us to build that volume. So again, that's the last 1.5 to 2 inches of his hairline. So we get a little bit of a grip, and I'm just rolling that brush. Not a big ambiguous movement, just enough to get a little bit of grip. And shape out of this. Now, Ryan will not generally do his hair quite as high as I will. The luxury of being a hairdresser, but when he wants to, that pompadour is already built in. Sharp, man. All right, so we've got our rough draft built in. We have some of our style already there. This is where I pull out my blending shears. And again, keeping with the wide tooth comb here. And keep that length up out of my way. And I like to use a combination between a flat scissor over comb and a point cutting scissor over comb, which allows me to really focus in on where that density is and decide how much I want to remove. And this is where you get to put your fingerprint, your personalization into the cut. Now you can see I'm doing a very loose scissor over comb here because again, I still want to preserve most of that bulk because again, he naturally has a heck of a lot of this stuff and it's quite enthusiastic. And that allows most of this to sit really nice and easy. So still working on the sides.
While Joel is blending out some of his weight lines, let us know what products you want to see him use to style this boogie in the comments below.
And this is again where you get to choose your texturizing techniques. Going with something a little more traditional right now, but we'll do something a little bit more fun in just a second. Again, we can make a wig out of what Ryan has on the floor right now. I mean, I know I could use a little bit. And for those who are brave, you can move into the bloody knuckles routine, which I am not nearly as fast as Rob, but it gives a nice personalization here. All right. Nice and smooth. Here, tilt for me. So before I put any product in, I like to check my shape 2 to 3 times in the mirror and more direct on so you can see it in a up close and a far off shaping approach. Hey Nick, did we have any product recommendations?
We had some green with the fiber gel. We had that's about it. So do your magic. Use whatever you want.
Well, I like a high gloss finish on Ryan here. I think it's going to give very classic mobster feel. So I'm going to use a combination of the blue and the green pomades today. And we're going to show you a few different ways to style that. So the blue is a high gloss, water soluble pomade with a high hold. And the green, which is my personal favorite, the green is a beeswax product. So that's oil essentially. And so by applying the blue first, and again in that Bob Ross fashion where I'm heating it up on the palettes between my hands, and I'm going into the scalp in the crown first. And I'm using a little bit of pressure because again, we want it to the scalp rather than to the ends of the hair. Rework it. And again, I'm working against the grain. And starting in back allows you to, if you're going to leave a glob anywhere, I'd rather it be back here than right in the hairline, personally. Allows you to have a little bit more control. So again, I'm going to use even a second knuckle of the blue on this guy. He's got so much hair. Warm it up. And now that I've already started the application, I'm a little bit braver about where I can apply. So we're setting that high gloss water soluble pomade down first so that there's a layer that the green, the wax, our oil pomade, or classic grease, can sit over it and wash out a lot easier. So, same method, warm that up, use your body heat, and against the grain, really work it in. And now that we have it standing on end, Ryan, if you scream at the mirror for a few hours, you might turn blonde. It's a good Halloween costume, you know? All right. The trusty pick. So as I'm working through, there's just a little bit of tug, which means the product has even distribution. So this could be enough as you're shaping through. This would allow you kind of a more medium shine, but we used a high gloss and a workable wax. So the secret to them is in the heat. So we've already got our shape flown in here. We've already got it essentially styled. I'm just following it with a little bit more heat, which allows the wax to melt down and combine with that high gloss pomade. And do you see how much more shine you get out of that immediately? It's magic. And I'm following a similar pattern. Trying to hit all the corners just to make sure that we don't over style, because we don't want to lose the volume and the shape. We just want to add a little bit of zhuzh to it, a little bit more life. And the tool that you're using is in direct relation to the texture that's left behind. So using a more fine-tooth comb, whether it's a pick like this, a basic cutting comb that has the finer teeth, this will give a more polished finish, especially if you follow it with just your body heat. If you want something a little bit more lived in, run your fingers through. Give it a little bit more shake up here. Now, I do have one more small trick up my sleeve today, guys. And that is to show you how versatile our new surf cream is. So we've already done a style. This is enough for day one. But if he has a date, a concert, something else to go to, and he wants a more lived in kind of finish, I use this, and you can cocktail it into other products. You can layer it. Now, the reason for this right now is to give you more of a day two look. And so again, we work this down, and it's going to cut the shine. It's going to cut a little bit of that hold and give you that more lived in texture, like he was hanging out at the beach. So because we've already got the shape in, still doing the Bob Ross method, but we can apply this more to the outside. And break down that hold again. So that gives you a couple options on how to wear this throughout the week. Ryan, how do you feel?
So great. I
Yeah?
love it. Oh, God.
Wonderful.
Looks wonderful.
Guys, my name is Joel Tenser. I'm the Reuzel Scumbassador from Tucson, Arizona. It's been my pleasure taking you through a haircut on October 30th, Halloween Eve. Guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you very much. Nicholas, can I give it back to you?
Hey, Joel, thanks. Hey, great job. Great presentation. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us today on October 30th. We appreciate you spending your morning, afternoon, or evening with us. Before we close, just a few things. We've got some upcoming in-person events. Our next classic cutting class in Denver is going to be on December 10th and 11th. Tickets still available. Our next Reuzel Live presentations are going to be November 27th, featuring European Technical Manager and Scorum alumni, Paul Taylor Clinch, followed by December 11th, closing out the year. We're going to have Stephanie Buckley doing a haircut demonstration for us to finish it all up. Again, thanks for hanging out with us today, and we will see you after Thanksgiving in November. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon.